Everybody see me behind you? One slight correction. My dad actually chose the songs, the beginning song and the ending song. My mom chose Blessed Assurance. My sister put together the video that we saw. And one of those songs in the video was called That's My Job by Conway Twitty. It was released in 1987 when I was in college. I gotta quit looking sad. Jacking me up there. And it immediately struck me. The lyrics of the song really hit home. So I'm going to read a couple of those real quick. I woke up crying late at night when I was very young. I had dreamed my father had passed away and gone. My world revolved around him. I couldn't lay there anymore. So I made my way down the mirrored hall and tapped upon his door. And I said, Daddy, I'm so afraid. How will I go on with you gone that way? I don't want to cry anymore. Can I stay here with you? And he said, that's my job. That's what I do. Everything I do is because of you, to keep you safe with me. That's my job, you see. I was blessed to be able to spend about the last 7 months with my dad, taking care of him, and I got to say, that's my job. That's what I do. Everything I do is because of you, to keep you safe with me. That's my job, you see. You will all have that opportunity in life to care for a loved one. Take that job. Sorry about that, my tough Marine uncle messed me up here. Got this all worked out. Okay. Tuesday morning, April 26th, early in the morning, my father passed in his sleep. Family was near him, and although there's never any great death, that was about as good as you could have. One thing that I noticed immediately is that my father had not died, but his body had died. Immediately I realized that his body was not Don Harris. His soul was Don Harris. And like that casket is going to protect my dad's body for the future, his body protected his soul. We got to see his body wear down, and that was super painful to watch his soul suffer inside a body that wasn't working right. So I actually was happy when he finally passed because I didn't have to worry about him suffering anymore. So Donald Edward Harris was born on November 12th, 1941, outside the little town called Ramona, Oklahoma, in northeast Oklahoma. He was the third of 4 boys, born to Frank and Maud Harris. His oldest brother, Mac, was killed in a car wreck when he was 21 by a drunk driver. My dad was 16 at the time. His next oldest brother, Charles, passed away as a toddler with a childhood sickness. So very young in life, my dad became the big brother. His younger brother, Derry, lived to his about 70s, I guess. He just passed away a few years ago. Through my dad's life, he grew up on a farm, remembered getting indoor plumbing, remembered the party phone lines where multiple people were on the same phone. He excelled in sports. He learned how to swim in a pond, which is why we never let him swim in the ocean. I shouldn't say he learned how to swim, he learned how to not drown. He played football, basketball, and I used to always tease me that he was a center at 6 foot tall. And I think he was about 140 pounds when he graduated from high school. He excelled in baseball. After high school, he ran into a friend of his, and the friend said, hey, I'm going to go down and sign up for the military. You want to go with me? Just ride along. And I go, sure. My dad comes home after that, tells his mom that he just signed up for the Marines. And he was leaving the next day. She didn't appreciate that short notice. Goes to the Marines, serves 4 years in the Marines, goes to Okinawa, travels the world basically, was preparing for Cuba when that got turned around, thankfully. Gets out of the military, goes to OU, and is walking across campus, runs into a friend of his. The friend says, "What are you doing?" My dad says, "I'm just walking around." He said, "What's your major?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "Go with me." So my dad follows him and meets the Dean of Petroleum Land Management, which at the time was a relatively new degree, and it was only being offered at OU and then this other little school in Texas. If you couldn't get into OU, I guess you could try to get it in. So my dad goes ahead, signs up, and told me multiple times it was a perfect career for him because it was built on creating a win-win for people. He would go out and find land that the oil company thought there was oil in, help those owners sign leases so they could get royalties and they could get some money out of their property and create a world that was better. So after that, after he graduates from college, one of his first assignments is in Corpus Christi, where he meets my mom in Corpus Christi and immediately becomes a family favorite. I hear stories about how they would make dinner for him, hoping that when he got off work, he would want to come over. And so he'd come over and they'd have pot roast or whatever. And he immediately kind of adopted the family, from what I understand. In Corpus, his favorite child was born. He was then transferred, and we ended up going to Chicago, to Oklahoma, and then down to Louisiana, where his second favorite child was born. His favorite daughter. Eventually we ended up moving to Texas, and in 1974 they found a great home in Northampton that we grew up in, and it was the perfect childhood. My dad was super involved. He was the coach, he was the leader, he was a teacher. During that time, and if you saw the videos, you saw lots of golf pictures. He and Mr. Verinder over here, I can't remember, I saw him over there a second ago. We're coming home from Walden one day, playing golf, and decided, why don't we have a golf course here in Northampton? So they got together a couple other men, and they started and built the golf course, the Beckmore subdivision. My memory growing up, getting to play that course in the summers and all the time, unbelievable. Getting to play with my dad, unbelievable. Best golf tips ever from my dad, who I'm a better handicap than. But anyway, I just got to a single digit, by the way. I know we're all impressed with that. So, as life progresses, as you all know, you begin to wonder, how are we here? What is this world? What is the universe? How can I grasp this? It's a really difficult thing to understand, right? Well, I think that guy set an example we can all live by. First, he loved God. If you saw his study Bible, it is gigantic and it's filled with notes. I don't think you could go through his Bible in a year just reading his notes in the outsides of the Bible. He led others to Christ. In his professional organizations, he started a prayer breakfast that goes on to this day. He was the kind of person that you want to be. So when you're struggling and can't figure out how life works or what you're supposed to do, think of that guy and love God. He loved his family. There's a picture in there of Chief Lazy Buffalo, or Indian Guides chief. The Sims were in that with us. The Barringtons were in that with us. Great life thing. You know, he cared about his family. I remember there was one time, and I vaguely personally remember this. I remember the story really well. He had an assignment outside of San Antonio, so he was spending a lot of time in San Antonio. He called home one day, and back then when the phone rang, you had to run to it because it was in one place. And you were excited because you didn't know who was calling. So I pick it up and I'm talking to this guy, and talking for a while, and finally goes, "Can I talk to your mom?" I don't know how old I was. I was 7, 8 years old, something like that. I said, "Mom, some man wants to talk to you." My dad was destroyed. He realized immediately that he had to be home. So he started driving several times a week back and forth from San Antonio to make sure he was here because he loved his family. So when you're thinking, what is this world about? What is my purpose? Think of that guy and love your family. My dad loved people. Never met a stranger, could talk to a rock. But he wanted everyone to know that they were important, that they were loved, and that they were cared for. Sometimes to the point where it drove us crazy. You couldn't leave a restaurant with him stopping and talking to everybody on the way. He had this habit of putting a hand on a shoulder and leaving it there a little too long. So we as a family were like, "You gotta let go of these people." But he wanted to make sure that he looked them in the eye and let them know that they were important and that they were loved. There was one particular time that still makes me cringe a little bit. We had gone to dinner somewhere and we were leaving it out of a parking garage. There was a guy there that had made such poor decisions in life that his job was to stand by the ticket insert thing, take the ticket from the driver, put it in the box, and give it back to the driver. Because evidently that was too hard for people to do. So my dad stops, talks to this guy for like 2 minutes. But he wanted that guy to know he was important and he was loved. So when you're thinking about what's going on, how does this world work? What is my purpose? Think of that guy and love people. My dad made the world a better place. From Willow Creek to the prayer breakfast to mentoring people in this audience that I'm aware of. He made the world a better place. So when you're thinking about what can I do to live my purpose, think of that guy and make the world a better place. It's easy to do. Love God, love your family, love people, make the world a better place. Thank you.